Welcome back to the deep dive. We're here again to take source material and really plunge into some, well, often fascinating and sometimes pretty startling insights.
That's right.
And today, we're really tackling something ambitious. It's a very unique perspective on the state of the world, a future that this source is claiming is, well, it's already here.
Indeed. Our mission today is really to unpack some truly disruptive claims. We're talking about global finance, power structures, even the very nature of our current reality.
Right.
The material suggests we're witnessing nothing less than the, quote, crash of Western civilization and the end of the world as we knew it.
Wow.
And importantly, no return to the past. It posits we're already in a new normal, one that's going to continue being emotionally disruptive for a lot of people.
Okay, let's unpack this then. The source kicks off claiming this current period right now is significant because the global central banking system itself is under attack. And they actually frame this as a good thing.
Yeah, it's provocative. According to our source, the ownership of basically all central banks on the planet is attributed to the Rothschilds.
Good.
The material flat out labels them a crime family and part of what it calls the Kazarian Mafia.
Kazarian Mafia.
It's described as this shadowy, powerful group with alleged deep historical ties to global finance, crime, you know. The source claims this group owns and controls the entire central banking system.
The entire system.
Which they say is now crashing. And furthermore, this viewpoint asserts that this Kazarian Mafia and the central bank are like basically the same thing as the deep state.
Okay, so they're equating the two.
Yeah, defining the deep state as this sort of shadow network manipulating policy. And the source says it only exists because the central bank, well, it can bribe it.
And the connections they draw, they don't stop there, do they? It gets even more complex, historically speaking.
It really does. The source goes as far as claiming that the whole Nazi idea, that it actually originated from this same Kazarian Mafia. Yeah, dating it back to the 1800s. They bring in figures like Albert Pike, the Illuminati, Freemasons. It's a very intricate historical claim they're making.
Okay, wow. So moving from that broad historical sweep,
Yeah.
how does this perspective interpret current events? Like the conflict in Ukraine.
Right. It offers a highly specific and, yeah, often controversial take. It's described not as a typical invasion by Russia.
Not an invasion?
No, but as a policing action. That's the term they use, with very defined objectives.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, I think. What are these objectives, according to the source?
Well, first they say clearing out biolabs, located around Ukraine's border with Russia.
Biolabs.
Seen as a threat to the Russian people and to everybody else. Capturing scientists and information from these labs is apparently part of it, too.
Okay. What else?
Additionally, the source claims Russia intends to, quote, get rid of all of these Nazis.
Specifying Ukrainian Nazis.
Yes, specifically Ukrainian Nazis. Described in the material as the worst of the worst, even worse than those in World War II. And crucially, linked back to that same Kazarian Mafia.
It keeps coming up.
It does. And this viewpoint, it further alleges these biolabs were involved in sending deliberately infected birds with bird flu towards Russia, likening it to, quote, CIA shit. And then it directly states the CIA is Kazarian Mafia as well.
So the CIA is folded into this theory, too.
Seems so. And Ukraine itself, characterized as a central hub of all their corruption, even identify as the, quote, biggest, quote, donor to Hillary Clinton's Clinton Global Initiative.
Okay, that's quite a collection of claims about Ukraine. Shifting back to the financial side then, the central banking system itself is called fundamentally a scam.
That's the core assertion. The source says the central bank's only real product is inflation.
Its only product?
Yeah, and that it never fights inflation because, in this view, it is inflation. It creates it.
How does it supposedly work, this scam?
Well, the source elaborates, claiming the Rothschilds as the Kazarian Mafia. They somehow twisted the politicians to get the legal right to produce dollars and charge interest on them.
Right.
They give an example, like right off the bat, when you get $1 here, you owe them $1.02. Just boom, instant debt.
And the consequence of that system?
A drastic reduction in purchasing power. The source claims something like 99.9% of every dollar purchasing power gone compared to 1913.
Wow. Almost total evaporation of value. And they tie historical events into this too, don't they?
Oh, yeah. Things like Andrew Jackson fighting the bank, even the sinking of the Titanic and the Lusitania.
The Titanic.
Claimed to have been deliberately done to cause the conditions that allowed the Rothschilds to get their central bank back in the United States.
That's a huge claim.
It is. And they connect the Rothschilds forward, too, linking them to the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab, implying the whole central banking system is designed to pave the way for their Great Reset.
Where all of us schlubs will own nothing.
That's the quote they use, yeah. Ordinary citizens owning nothing.
So with this dramatic backdrop painted, the source also takes aim at some common predictions about what happens next, calling them the wrong idea.
Exactly. It tries to debunk a few popular narratives about the future.
Okay, like what? What's the first one they dismiss?
First, they dismiss proponents of what they call Charlie Ward numbnuts theories, specifically the idea of a QFS.
QFS, quantum financial system.
Right. This idea that some new system will just like automatically appear, provide gazillions of dollars, act as an external savior.
And the source says...
calls it horseshit, basically, and argues it's just another form of central bank ownership of the individual. Because, and this is key to their point, scarcity provides value to humans. Easy money isn't the answer, they say.
Okay, so no magic money reset. What's the second idea they tackle?
Secondly, they address groups talking about a new form of global governance.
Right, that comes up a lot.
But the source sees this as just, well, a new form of a central bank system, ultimately still run by the same alleged Kazarian Mafia.
So, same problem, new name.
Essentially, they even suggest figures like Russell Brand might be controlled opposition for, quote, pimping this, promoting it.
Okay. And the third point they refute.
Lastly, the source pushes back against the idea that the collapse of the central bank must mean massive poverty planet-wide.
Which sounds like a logical consequence, maybe.
You'd think. But they call this not the case. Because, in their view, the end of the central bank means the end of the interest scam, so the underlying drain starts.
Interesting. So, if those are the wrong ideas, what does the source predict? If the Rothschilds aren't getting their Great Reset?
Well, what's fascinating here is the prediction that because the central bank system is, quote, going tits up, we're headed for a transition.
A transition to what?
To what the source calls sound money.
Sound money.
Okay.
What does that mean in this context? How do they define it?
It's described as stable or solid, meaning, crucially, it doesn't inflate. It holds its value.
And what would it be based on?
Based on things like gold, silver, the inherent scarcity of Bitcoin and effective cryptos like Ethereum, and also a new form of constitutionals.
Constitutionals.
Yeah, referring to like U.S. dollars not tied to the Federal Reserve. Dollars that don't automatically incur interest when created.
Like before the Fed existed.
Exactly. The source claims this kind of system existed in the U.S. before 1913 and, quote, was very excellent.
Okay, so a return to asset-backed or scarcity-based money.
Yeah.
But how does that transition happen? It sounds messy.
Very messy. And a key part of it, according to the source, involves seizing assets.
Seizing assets. From whom?
From, quote, enemies of the United States. They attribute this to some kind of deal signed by Trump, supposedly allowing the government to seize your assets when we convict you.
Okay, examples. Who are these enemies whose assets get seized?
The source gives examples like the assets of Dominion Voting Machine Company, and even things like huge amounts of farmland bought by Bill Gates.
Gates farmland,
Yep.
Okay.
And they also suggest that all of the money that is being seized now by Russia in Ukraine actually falls into this category too.
Oh, so?
Connecting it back to that alleged Clinton corruption in Ukraine, it's all part of reclaiming ill-gotten gains in their view.
So it's a kind of global asset recovery operation tied into this shift.
Seems to be the idea. And the source really emphasizes here that money should be understood differently, as a flow, not a goal.
A flow, not a goal.
Yeah, contrasting this with what they call the Kazarian Mafia's desire to just own it all, hoard it. Sound money should circulate, they argue.
This transition, though, seizing assets, shifting the entire basis of money.
Yeah.
The source must warn that this won't be smooth, right?
Oh, absolutely. It explicitly warns it will be a long, hard struggle.
How hard?
They compare it to what the Russians experienced coming out of the Soviet Union, a period of major upheaval. It's expected to take years to sort all this shit out, leading to a very irregular economy.
Right. Instability, uncertainty.
Definitely. Which leads to their advice for individuals.
Which is, don't wait for the magic money system.
Exactly. The source strongly advises against counting on QFS or any of that horse shit.
Why?
Because doing so, they say, will just make you poorer. You'll miss opportunities you've got now to get shit that you need now.
So focus on the present realities.
Yes. The current situation is likened to living in the last days of East Germany. Things are precarious. You need to prepare.
Prepare how? What should people focus on?
The advice is to focus on functioning forms of solid money now.
Meaning?
Things that have real value. Gold, silver, yes, but also practical things. Fuel, meat, milk. And certain cryptocurrencies that have genuine scarcity or utility, things you can actually use or trade.
So tangible assets and useful commodities, plus some crypto. What about the economic impact overall? Does this mean long-term poverty?
Temporarily poorer? Yes, the source concedes that. As we shift from this massive debt-based system to solid money, there will be a contraction. But the claim is, the sooner we can get sound money flowing through the economy, the more rapidly we get picked up. The recovery depends on adopting this new system.
And it requires something from us.
Yes. It requires us to learn to cooperate to come out of this in an effective fashion. Community, cooperation become key.
That makes sense if the old centralized systems are failing. So looking back at this whole picture.
Yeah, what's truly compelling, I think, is the perspective that basically everyone alive today. We've never actually experienced a truly sound money system. Not really.
We haven't.
We've lived under what the source calls a fiat money system that was unbound to anything other than the threat to hassle oil.
The petrodollar.
Exactly, the petrodollar, or even bomb dollar, as they call it. Enforced, ultimately, by the U.S. military, not by intrinsic value.
So the implication is we don't even really know what real money feels like in an economy.
That seems to be the underlying point. It's a completely different paradigm.
So reflecting on all this, what does it really mean for you, listening right now? If we consider this potential future where money perhaps regains soundness, where value comes from scarcity, from real things, not just debt, what shifts in our own thinking, maybe our own actions, might be needed?
Yeah, how would such a fundamental change in what money even is reshape not just our economies, but like our daily lives, how we interact, how we cooperate in our communities?
It's a profound question stemming from a truly disruptive set of claims, something definitely to think about